Hi, welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Lily Newman, and my host is Susan Salomone, Executive Director of Drug Crisis in Our Backyard. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you.
And today, our guest is Susan Salomone, Executive Director of Drug Crisis in Our Backyard. Welcome again.
Thank you. It's very strange to be on the other side of the camera. Actually, it's not the other side of the
No,
camera.
it's the same side.
It is the same side.
But you're on the
But
spot.
actually, I'm in the interview chair,
That's
so
right.
now I know how nervous our guests are. I get the feeling here,
That's
what it feels like. So I'm happy to be doing this with you, actually, because we've been doing this for over a year.
Almost two.
Almost 2 years.
60, I think it's our 59th show, so we're
Okay.
getting up there.
And
But
we
you're-
have never
Done
done Drug Crisis in our
That's right.
backyard.
We haven't discussed it, what it is, and how it got started.
Okay.
So tell us, how did Drug Crisis in Our Backyard get started?
Okay, so my son Justin had a problem with drugs that started with marijuana when he was 16 years old. And he went to a therapist. We sent him to a therapist to find out if we had to be worried about this. And the therapist told us that he would never be addicted to anything, which was really very strange because addiction runs in both my husband's side of the family and my side of the family. So I guess this was so long ago when I think about it. Justin was born in '83 and he was 15, so it was 16. So it was
93, and 4 is like 2000. 93,
96.
96.
Something
okay,
like
that was my
that.
math.
Yeah, so anyway, I know that they're not saying that anymore.
Nope.
So anyway, he went to college. He went to Marist College, and when he was 19, he was arrested for having marijuana in his car. And so it was a long, drawn-out affair in the courts because he had a lot of marijuana. And he dropped out of Marist College, went to Dutchess Community College, and he started using Percocet or Oxycontin. We don't know which one it was,
Right.
but it was a painkiller
Right.
that he was buying on the streets. So, and we found that out through his girlfriend, Charlotte, who told us she was leaving him because he was making poor life choices,
Got it.
which was so very true.
Right.
So again, we didn't know anything about this. This was probably 2002, around then, and that this was happening.
Right.
And we didn't realize how addictive these drugs
Right,
are.
right.
They
No
are
one was talking about them.
incredibly
That's right.
addictive. And we didn't know that.
know.
So we brought him in. We had the parent-child talk. What are you doing? You're going to ruin your life.
Right.
If you continue down this road, you have to stop taking these drugs. And we thought he stopped at
Right.
that point, and which he didn't. So the addiction, his disease progressed, and he started shooting heroin after a stint in a rehab where, who knows what happened there. But when he came out, he started shooting heroin. And a lot
you
of
know-
things happened that he was shooting. Yeah, we did know because he stole $4,000 out of our bank account.
Got it.
And when we realized it was him,
Right.
and we confronted him
Right.
with it, we said, we have the proof here. You
Right.
can't lie about
Right.
it anymore. He said, I'm shooting heroin. And that was just so shocking. It was
Sure.
like hard to believe. I mean, nobody was shooting heroin.
know.
As far as we knew,
know.
it was not something that we knew anything about. And we weren't reading it about it in the newspapers, nothing.
Nothing.
So he had an excellent addiction psychiatrist. He was fantastic out of Ardsley. And he was asked if he wanted to be part of a research study for naloxone.
Got it.
Okay, which at that time was not
one heard it.
FDA approved
That's right.
for for
right.
opiates,
That's
only
right.
for alcohol.
Right.
So he did become part of that. It was a 6-month program, outpatient. I took a leave from work,
Right.
and we went down together. It was 3 hours, 3 times a
Right.
week, and most of the time he was in therapy with an individual therapist.
Right.
And he was doing cognitive behavioral therapy. He was doing great.
Right.
He really, really was doing great. And after the 6 months, he had 6 months clean. He went to work in a restaurant, which was a big mistake. If I could say to the audience,
Please.
your child, if he has an addiction, should not work in a restaurant.
Or a bar.
Or a bar. There's a lot of alcohol around, and a lot of people that work in those restaurants and bars are, they like to drink.
That's right. They do.
So he did start drinking, and eventually it brought him back
Right.
to his drug of choice. And I don't remember the timeline exactly, but in 2011, he went into New York Presbyterian Hospital because he told his psychiatrist he was going to kill himself.
Right.
And in the middle of all that, he was on Vivitrol for a while, which is now FDA approved for opiates. At that time, it was approved for alcohol.
And Vivitrol stops the urges, right? And it blocks it.
It stops the urges a little, but it's a blocker.
Right.
Vivitrol is an opiate blocker. So it sits in the opiate receptors of the brain, and if you use any kind of opiate, you're not going to get high.
Right.
So the leverage is, why should I spend the money on this opiate when I can't get high? The downside of it is some people try to use so much that they will get high and they overdose.
That's right.
So that's the downside of it. So he was on Vivitrol for a chunk of time, and he had a lot of clean time, like 5 to 6 months in chunks, but he would always relapse. And so that time he told his psychiatrist he wanted to commit suicide. He went directly to New York Presbyterian Hospital. He went into the psych unit there, which was over the top, excellent in White Plains. What a great hospital. He was in the Haven, it's called. And he spent 2 weeks there. We went to visit him, and they diagnosed him bipolar, which was probably a result of the drug use. I don't believe that he was bipolar when he was a child or when he was a teenager. I believe because of the drug use, he became bipolar. And they put him on a couple of meds for that, and he was doing great. He had a great job. He was working for an excellent company. It was a professional sales job. Okay, so he had to wear a suit every day, or at least a shirt and tie, and go out and speak to customers. And he was a good talker. He liked to talk. And after about 5-6 months, we saw he was starting to relapse, and we didn't know what he was on, and we couldn't even go there. As parents, it becomes so difficult even to watch it that you don't know what to do. And shortly after that, maybe a week after that, he OD'd on heroin. Probably because he wasn't using it. Because we believe that he was using Xanax. We kind of found out it was Xanax that he was nodding out on, which is a drug of choice for opiate users.
Because it gives them kind of sort of the same kind of high, but not exactly, but it's a good substitute.
It's a good substitute. So we believe that he was using the Xanax, and we should have jumped in right then and there and done something about it.
What are you going to do?
But in any case, then he OD'd on heroin, and he had a brain injury. And that was October 28th, 2011. And I'll tell you, that was probably the worst, horrible experience. It was traumatic. The whole thing was traumatic for my family. I have 3 other boys, as you know, Lily. And the whole thing, from start to finish, was traumatic.
Because it involves the entire family. No one escapes.
No one escapes.
No one escapes.
But my Adam, my next one down after Justin, and Andrew at least got a break. They went to college. Whereas Dylan was there the whole time.
How old was
Dylan? Dylan was 9 when it started, and he was 19 when Justin died.
10 years.
10 years. The whole kit and caboodle he was there for, and of course me and my husband. And I'll tell you, when he had that brain injury, it was the saddest thing, because he couldn't write. He couldn't type, and he couldn't play his guitar. And his guitar was his blanket. Anyway, after 6-7 months of going to Burke rehab for all those treatments, occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, he wanted to move into an independent living home, which he did. Search for change, actually. And 2 weeks later, he died of an overdose. And that was May 29th, 2012. And this is a picture of my son, and he was a good boy. A sensitive boy. He maybe had ADHD, not ADHD, ADD, but
they're good kids.
They are
they're
good
creative,
kids.
smart, loving, kind. They're all good kids.
They're all good kids.
And we're losing so many of them.
So many of them. It's hard to believe. So immediately after, it was like you never believe your kid is going to die. I think that's part of the problem. It's part of of not taking it seriously
Right.
enough. You
Right.
just, I guess for parents, it's impossible to believe that you're going to lose them.
That's right.
And so you don't keep them home. Say,
Right.
no, you can't go out.
That's right.
This is where you're
Right.
staying
That's
until we
right.
get this
Right.
control of this.
And how can you if your son is 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and they're big? What are you going to do? They walk out.
They walk out.
They walk out. And
Right.
I think as a parent, after a while, you just don't know what to do because you've tried everything.
And you become hopeless too.
That's
you
right, you
feel
do.
Because every time they get clean, you have hope.
That's right.
This is going to be it.
That's right.
Parents think, they believe that their kid goes away to a rehab, they come back, they're
It's
better.
fine. That's right.
I believe that. And it couldn't be further than the truth. So many go away to a
right.
rehab, they come back, and they die.
Right.
Because
right.
now they're clean.
That's right.
And it's horrible that is so true. And they're clean, and they use, and they die. They
right.
overdose. So I think the thing about it is to understand that your kid can die. It's as simple, it's like
That's right.
that. It's like a light switch. Okay, it's as fast as that. And then there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do.
So,
Done.
so the thing is to do everything you can do before that happens.
But what do you think? I don't know what do you think you could have done differently or more
Oh, I
well?
would have forced him into another rehab. He kept saying, and I hear this all the time, I've done that already.
I know, I've done it.
I've been to a rehab.
right.
I could teach the classes.
That's right.
But you know what?
They need to go again.
They need to go
And
again
again,
and again and
and
again until they get it. But I think there's a whole nother dimension to this that I believe that this has to be treated as a medical
That's right.
issue and not a behavioral
That's
issue.
right.
Like we're trying to cure, or not cure, because we're never going to cure.
Right.
They have something that's chronic
Right.
and
That's
progressive.
right.
We are trying to address it with behavioral
Right.
techniques when
not
I think this is a medical issue. The brain has changed.
That's right.
And we need medically to try to reverse the symptoms of
And that
what
takes
the drugs
time.
did. And,
And that-
not only does it take time, but I think it takes other types of, techniques. Let's put it like that. So
Okay.
I read an article
Okay,
in National
please.
Geographic
Okay.
that talked about how in Italy they are using magnetic resonating something they put on the brain, and it changes the pathways that the drugs have created.
There you go.
Okay?
Okay.
And it's in National Geographic
Okay,
in
I'm gonna have to
September
read it.
2017.
Okay.
I posted the article on our
Okay.
Facebook
I'm going to read
page.
it.
So, to get back to the
Right.
story then. So, he died on May 29, 2012, and I wrote an article called Saving Justin, A Mother's Battle Against Addiction. And Brett Freeman of Halston Media published it. And you wouldn't believe how many calls we got. It was the story of our family, what we went through, that my son died of a heroin overdose, that we were a normal middle-class family
In Carmel.
in Carmel, went to the Mayapack schools.
Nobody heard of heroin up here.
Right,
Because heroin is those people down there.
right, exactly. And the
people.
pills, too. We
And
never
the
heard of the
pills.
pills.
No. Because it was anyone gets addicted, those people.
Right,
You didn't hear about the pills, how bad they were, how addicted they are.
right. You could imagine marijuana or alcohol,
Right.
but
Not those.
But heroin, it was like, it
Nope.
was really over the top. So we got a lot of calls, me
Mm-hmm.
and my husband, and I got a call from Carol Christiansen and her husband Lou, who that article came out on June 14th. Could you imagine? I don't even know how I did that, Lily.
I think about that a lot. How you Justin passed, and then immediately you went into high gear
Yeah.
with the article, and then you haven't stopped since.
No.
You have not stopped since.
Over 5 years.
That's right.
So he called and he said he buried his son Eric that morning. And they came over and they told us Eric's story. Eric was a narcotics
That's right.
detective working in New York City. And he had a condo, he had a girlfriend.
That's
It was
right.
a very different story than
right,
Justin.
right.
They did not experience the disease as we did.
Right.
And he had been to rehab actually twice. And the second time out, he died within days of that.
Because didn't he have an injury?
Yes.
And that's how we got hooked on
That's
the
he got hooked
the
on the
oxys. Right.
Yeah, he had a back injury.
That's right.
And I'll tell you, they brought over the scripts, the empty bottles.
Right. I can't even imagine.
I couldn't believe how many pills had been prescribed to Eric. It was unbelievable. And so we decided at that time we named it Drug Crisis in Our Backyard because it is a drug. That's what we said. This is a drug crisis in our backyard.
That's right. It's
hey, isn't that a good name?
It's perfect because it's in your backyard and no one knows.
And no one knows.
No one knew.
And so the first thing we did, we had a forum at the Mayapack Library on August 9th.
Right.
Were you there?
I was there at the second one.
Okay. All right. On August 9th, we had a lot of people show up, 200.
That's right.
The room holds 150.
Right.
So we couldn't get any more people
Right.
in, and there were people sitting on the floor.
I believe it.
So I would say we had 200 people, and we had a panel of speakers, professionals, pharmacists,
Right.
Tricia Kushner from ASK, Alliance for Safe Kids, a few other people. We had a New York State trooper,
Okay.
and he showed where they hide stuff.
Got it.
And so that was our first community forum. And we did 4 of those that first year. I
Right.
was still working then. Then I retired in June of 2013, and I started doing this full time. So we incorporated, we made it a
That's right.
nonprofit corporation. And since then, we've made it a 501c3. We were 501c3 for about 2 years now.
So how have you evolved from the article to the Christiansens and you and your husband to your forum to take us through that?
Well, at the forums, we were being asked to start a support group. Okay, parents were calling out to us, please start a support
right.
group. We need help. So I started the support group with Joan Posner, who was having a problem with her daughter, Erin. And we sat down and we said, well, let's model it after the 12-step
Right.
program, Al-Anon, without the 12 steps,
Right.
because that's what the people felt. People didn't want to hear about
Right.
God, which is, listen, I went to Al-Anon 3 times a
Right.
week when Justin was in crisis. It was a strong support for me. But no, it's not for everyone.
Not for everyone, right.
So we modeled it after Al-Anon with, a topic, and then have people,
Right,
go around the
share.
room and talk. But what we do and this is still going, this
Right.
family support group, what we do is we respond.
Right.
The leader responds. In Al-Anon, you talk and
Right.
nobody
That's
responds.
right.
And it's hard because
That's
you
right.
put all this stuff out
Right,
there, and
and
it
no
could
one-
be very
right.
emotional.
Right. Right. And no one gives you any kind of feedback because that's what people want. They want feedback.
Anything.
Right.
Just
on
a few
something.
words.
That's it.
Even like, I understand
That's
your
right.
pain.
That's right. Because that's why they're there.
Yeah. And so we have that going, and we started that in Mayapack, at the Mayapack Library. So we're at the Mayapack Library, we're at the Yorktown Cultural Center in Yorktown,
Okay.
and we're up in Dutchess at the Hopewell Reformed Church.
Got it.
So we have 3. We meet every other week in all those locations.
Right, no. It's a
So
lot.
all that's on our website.
Okay.
Yeah, the family support group. So we have trainers, we have leaders of those groups that either have gone through this or are certified in some way. So that was our,
Right,
our
that was the beginning.
right after the community
Right.
forums came that. Since then, and through that, we
Right.
started to do family navigation
Right.
because there were parents in that support group that
Right.
needed help. They
That's
needed
right.
to know where to find things. The first year that I was involved in this, I went out and met all the providers
Right.
in the area pretty much. I went to, is that how I met you? I
No,
met
I
you
called
through-
up. I spoke to Lou Christiansen, and he said, call the Salomones. And he gave me your number. And I think I spoke to you. I think I spoke to Steve first, or I left a message.
Okay.
And then I said, I just want to help. How can I help? How can I volunteer? Because being in St. Vincent's, I was telling my boss, John, we have to do something. The opiate crisis, we have to do something. We have to do something. We have to do something. And then I said, aha, now I'm doing something. Because here was something that I could be a part of to say, look, this is what they're doing. I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
After I called and I could give them the information.
Right.
And then I've been trailing along.
You've been with me ever since.
That's right.
And I've been with you,
That's
whatever
right.
you're doing.
That's right. We share. And now you're in the
Right.
jails also.
Well, now, so that first year when I was still working, but, this was grief-driven,
Right.
all of it.
I was going to say
And,
that.
you don't get that kind of adrenaline
Right.
normally.
Right.
It was grief-driven. So I had met with Arms Acres, with Phelps Memorial, with Putnam Family Community Services, with NCADD in
Right.
Putnam, and down in Westchester with ASK, Tricia Kushner.
Right.
Tricia Kushner was my mentor. She really helped me get this going, get it off the ground, because she had done it.
Right.
She had done the same thing.
Right.
So, with Alliance for Safe Kids. And so because I had all those referrals, I met all those
That's
people.
right.
They brought me on tours of their facilities. When parents asked us where to go, I recommended them call the people that I connected with. So we started to get into family navigation with that, helping families what to do next.
That's right.
What's the next step?
Right.
And although it wasn't right then and there, because we learned a lot over the last 5 years, now we kind of, when parents call us, we're pretty direct on what the next step should be, because we've been there with other families. We've lost so many people, even friends of this group. We've lost their children. They have lost their children.
I know that. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. We've also done a lot of Narcan training.
That's right. We have done Narcan training.
Right. So we've done a lot of Narcan training with you, and we originally did, our first Narcan training was with Putnam Family and Community Services.
Right.
That was probably the second year we were around.
Which
did that.
Narcan was just coming out, because I was at that one, Putnam Family, right here.
Yeah.
That's right. We did the oranges and the doctor.
Right.
Right. We did
Dr. Reba came
That's right.
in.
You were packed. You had a lot of people
We had
there.
a lot of people.
A lot of people. Then that was the first thing people heard about the Narcan. Really, was just getting started out there.
Yeah, because it wasn't.
You couldn't talk about it still.
Yeah, but it wasn't like it is now. Like you couldn't get it.
Couldn't get anywhere.
The cops didn't have it.
Nope.
The firemen didn't have it.
And they were confiscating it too. People were afraid it was being confiscated when they had it.
Okay, I didn't know that.
They were confiscating them because they didn't know that it wasn't a controlled substance.
Okay.
So cops were taking them, police were taking them.
Yeah,
I know in the city.
Yeah, so maybe you want to tell them what Narcan does.
Narcan, it reverses the effects of an overdose. And within 3 to 5 minutes, it'll start the person breathing, and it puts them in immediate withdrawals. So it just like blocks it, just knocks it right out of the receptors, and the Narcan stays on top between 30 to 90 minutes. And you get them to the hospital. It gives a person a chance to live, to survive this, if you get there fast enough and you give it to them, you call 911 and then you administer the Narcan. They used to give it in the shots.
Yeah.
Now they give it in the nasal. We have to put it together. Now they're coming out with, Afrin, just it's one shot. You don't have to put anything together. It's already self-contained. So those are the new ones that are coming out.
Good.
Brand new ones.
I know Arms Acres does a bi-monthly, every other month treatment, Narcan training, and so does St. Christopher's.
Right.
And we were doing them too, but now the Narcan's hard to find.
I'm getting mine. Give me 5, please. I waited since February because there are over 536 registered opiate programs that can train and give out Narcan in New York State. So there's a backlog.
Yeah.
But they finally got my order. I got it processed, and it should be here shortly. So you and I will go out, and we're going to do the trainings again.
Right, we'll go to Poughkeepsie.
They want us again in Poughkeepsie, and there's a church. Pastor Jordan wants us in their church. So I'm going to save my Narcan for doing community.
Okay.
Just going out in the community, because it's harder for them to get.
Right,
So
exactly.
we'll do it that way. So you know what, though? Why don't you talk about the things that are coming up? We've got 7 minutes.
Oh, all right. Okay, all right. So I just wanted to mention the early introduction, the early intervention program. The early intervention program is something that Lily brought to me and asked if I want to be involved in. It's a fabulous thing. This is for parents that find out that their kids are smoking pot or drinking. So this is a 3-hour educational program for parents and children, separated from each other, with 2 qualified leaders, in order to teach the parents about how serious this is.
That's right.
And also teach the kids about what could happen if they continue.
Because we forget that marijuana, alcohol, and nicotine are the gateway drugs. And people forget that, and they slough it off and say, it's only alcohol, it's only marijuana.
Exactly. So parents don't know what to do. We didn't know what to do when we found Justin with the pot. So this early intervention is fabulous. We also bring in a person in recovery. We try to get young people in recovery, and they come in. They tell their story to the parents and to the young person.
Right.
And I'll tell you, we have had a lot of success with this. We've learned a lot, and we stay in touch with the parents to see how things are going. The parent learns more than the kid does.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right.
That's really important.
But that's okay, because they can help their kid, because this
Right.
is information they didn't have before.
Exactly.
And that's what's good about it.
Okay, so now I'm going to tell you about
Please,
our upcoming
tell us
events.
what's coming
okay?
up.
Right around the corner, we have Run for Recovery, and this is September 23rd at registration. You can come and register, or you could register online. This is on our website at drugcrisisinoutbackyard.org. If you click on the link on our website, it'll bring you right to where you can register for this run sign up. It's a run or a walk.
That's right.
So the first group of people leave and they run, and everybody else walks behind them, because it's we don't run at this age.
We walk.
we stopped running.
That's right.
We're just walking.
We're walking.
But it's a good fundraiser. We are. And not only is it a fundraiser, it is a call to action.
Right.
Come on out there. This is National Recovery Month. Come on out and show your support. Reduce the stigma. Okay,
That's
this is about reducing the stigma by showing up. It's as simple as that.
Right.
So that's our first one coming up. The next one after that is September 28th. It's called Reversing the Stigma, and it's a documentary about hope and recovery.
Good.
It's being produced by New York State Office of Alcohol and Substance Abuse, and we're showing it at the Carmel Theater on September 28th at 7 p.m.
Okay.
And there is an $11 charge to get in the theater.
Okay.
But the manager, such a nice guy, Matt, he's going to give popcorn and
good.
water with that $11.
Good. Okay.
And we're showing it at the City Center in White Plains on October 16th with Ellen Morehouse, and you're involved
That's
in
right.
that.
St. Vincent's Hospital. That's
Yes,
right.
is involved in that as
We're
well.
sponsoring it.
And that's a $5 charge.
Okay.
So
When is that? September? October?
October 16th.
October 16th.
It's either 6:30 or 7. I'm not sure.
But they can get the information on your website.
It's all on my website.
Okay. At www.
drugcrisisinoutbackyard.org.
And your phone number. Just tell people your phone.
845-842-1212. Also, the last thing that we're involved in a lot of other things in this, but these are things that we are hosting, okay? So this one is called the Opiate Summit, and this is October 19th. We're having it at Arms Acres. They're hosting it, and it is to bring people and legislators and county executives and anybody else that'll come up to speed on what's happening with current statistics and treatment available, and how they're trying to use different approaches to managing this. Okay, like, for example, 24/7 crisis.
That's right.
Not a line, but
That's
a place to go to.
That's
like in
right.
Poughkeepsie and Dutchess, they have the stabilization center, which is 24/7, and you can just walk in and talk to someone. So there's more grant money out for that.
I know.
Okay.
And people have to get involved to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're going to have to come back, and we're going to have to talk about more stuff when this is over, how it went.
That sounds great.
Because you know what? And we're closing. When I went to the forum that was in Mayapack High School, I think, you had about 30, you had over 100 people, and I think, or 200, about 30 people or so stood up and talked about losing their child, different ages.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It really is.
And the thing is that 2016 was 60
Almost
plus
60,000.
from drug overdose, not all of them from opiates.
That's right.
And they expect it to be higher in 2017. So
65,000 by 2000. At the end of 2017, it'll be 59 to 65,000 people in this country will die from the opiate epidemic.
Oh, really? Okay, so we got to keep.
Got to keep going.
We got to keep
plugging
beating
out
that
there.
drum.
That's
drum,
right. That's
right?
beating the drum. That's right. To beat the drug.
There you
Sister
go, honey.
Sledge.
There you go.
Love you to pieces.